Ekadashi, Sattila Ekadashi. Is it okay? We will sing Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu before we start the class.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This song has been written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his book Sharanagati. Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula. Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula. Bhakata Seva Paramasedi Premalati Karamula. माधवती थी भक्ति जननी जटने पालन कोरी कृष्ण बसती बसती बोली परम आधारे बोरी गौर आमार जे सब स्थाने कोरालो ब्राह्मण रांगे से सब स्थान हेरी बो आमी प्रणयी भकत संगी मृदंग वाद्या सुनीते माना बसर सदा जाचे गौर विहित कीर्तन सुनी आनंद हृदय नाचे जुगल मूर्ति देखिया मोरा परम आनंद होया प्रसाद सेवा करिते होया सकल प्रपंच जाया जे दिने गृहे भजन देखी गृहे ते गोलोक भाया चरण सेतु देखिया गंगा सुख ससीमा पाया तुलसी देखी जुराया प्राण माधव तोषणी जानी गौर प्रिया शाखा सेवाने जीवन सार्थक मानी भक्ति विनोदा कृष्ण भजने अनुकूल पाया जाहा प्रतिदिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार कोरोता शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन अनुकूल. Hare Krishna. So we will continue from where we left yesterday. Yesterday, in chapter 17 to 45, Mahaprabhu ran towards Ganga, jumped into it, and Nityananda and Haridas Thakur caught him and raised him from the river. At that beach, we go to the next verse, 246. विजयाचार्य घरे से रात्रे राहिला प्रातः काले भक्त शबे घरेला न गेला. That night Lord stayed at the house of Vijayacharya, and in the morning Lord took all his devotees and returned home. एकादिना गोपी भावे गृहे ते वशिया गोपी गोपी नाम लाया विषण्णहाना. One day the Lord, in ecstasy of the gopis, was sitting in his house, very morose in separation. He was calling Gopi, Gopi. The Lord was feeling intense separation with his Vrindavan Lila pastimes, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was remembering the gopis of Vrindavan. Eka paduyaila Prabhu ke dekhite gopi gopi nama suni lagile palite. A student who came to see the Lord was astonished that the Lord was chanting Gopi Gopi, and thus the student spoke as follows. Krishna nama nalao kene Krishna nama dhanya Gopi Gopi bali leva ki bahaya punya. The student, who was unaware of who this personality is, he was saying, why are you chanting the name Gopi Gopi? Instead, why don't you chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, which is so glorious? What pious result will you achieve by such chanting? So that is what the student had to say. It is said that Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vignena Bhujiya. No one can understand the activities of a pure devotee. A student or a neophyte devotee could not possibly understand why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting the name of the gopis, nor should the student have asked the Lord about the potency of chanting Gopi Gopi. This neophyte student was certainly convinced of the piety of in the chanting of Krishna's holy name. But this sort of attitude is also offensive. Dharma vrata tyaga, utadi sarva shubha kriya, samyam api pramada. To, to chant the holy name of Krishna in exchange for the achievement of piety is an offense. This, of course, was unknown to the student. Thus, he innocently asked, what piety is there in chanting the name of Gopi? He did not know that there is no question of piety or impiety. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna or the holy name Gopi is on a transcendental platform of loving affairs. Since he was not expert in understanding such transcendental activities, his question was merely impudent. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, apparently greatly angry at him, Mahaprabhu reacted as follows. Suni Prabhu Krode Kaila Krishna Doshat Gara Tengalana Utila Prabhu Paduya Mari Bara. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got angry at the student. Hearing the foolish student, the Lord became greatly angry and rebuked Lord Krishna in various ways. Taking up stick, he rose to strike the student. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that when Uddhava came from Lord Krishna with the message for the gopis, all the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani, denounced Krishna in various ways. Such denunciations, however, reflect an exuberant, loving attitude that an ordinary man cannot understand. When the foolish student questioned Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya similarly rebuked Lord Krishna in loving exuberance. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of the gopis and the student advocated the cause of Sri Krishna, Lord Chaitanya was greatly angry. Seeing his anger, the foolish student, who was an ordinary atheistic Smartha Brahmana, foolishly misguided him. Thus, he and a party of students were ready to strike the Lord in retaliation. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to take sannyasa so that people would not commit offenses against him, considering him an ordinary householder. For in India, even now, a sannyasi is naturally offered respect. So, since the boy did not understand the transcendental pastimes and the importance of gopis, he just said that why are you chanting Gopi Gopi? Why don't you take Krishna's name? And then Mahaprabhu got annoyed at the boy and also rebuked Lord Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but he is rebuking Krishna. Just like when Uddhava came to Vrindavan, the gopis headed by Radharani also got said, we don't want Krishna. Why are you coming here? Why have you come and started to talk something with us? भाये पालाया पौड़िया प्रभु फाचे फाचे धाया अस्ते वसते भक्त गण प्रभु रे रहाया. The student ran away in fear and the Lord followed him. But somehow or other the devotees checked the Lord. प्रभु रे शांत करी आणिला निज घरे पडूया पालाया गेला पडूया साभारे. The devotees then pacified the Lord and brought him back to his home, and the student ran away to an assembly of other students. पडूया सहस्र याहान पडे एक थानी प्रभुरा वृत्तांत द्विज कहे तहान्याय. The Brahmana student ran to a place where 1,000 students were studying together. There he described the incident to them. In this verse, we find the word Dvija, indicating that the student was a Brahmana. Actually, in those days, only members of the Brahmana class became students of Vedic literature. Schooling is meant especially for Brahmanas. Previously, there was no question of schooling for Kshatriya, Vaishyas, or Shudras. Kshatriyas used to learn the technology of warfare. Vaishyas learned the business from their fathers or other businessmen. and they were not meant to study the Vedas. At present, however, everyone goes to school and everyone is given the same type of education, although no one knows what the result will be. The result, however, is most unsatisfactory, as we have seen in the Western countries, especially. The United States has vast educational institutions where everyone is allowed to receive an education, but the result is that most students become like hippies. So Srila Prabhupada has quoted the scenario which was present in the in earlier years, where the school used to be only Gurukul and those who were born as Brahmanas. So those who were not not Brahmanas. So there are two types of Brahmanas we can say. One is a Brahmana by Jat. By Jat means by birth he is a Brahmana. So it is not that after the birth the child becomes Brahmana, but because he's born in a Brahmin family, he becomes a Brahmana. That's called a Jata Brahmana. And the other one is Swabhava Siddha Brahmana. Swabhava Siddha, all this has been brought by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, that anyone who has the qualities of Brahmana and who is taken up to worship the Supreme Personality of Lord as per Vedic scriptures and follows the rules and regulations, they are also Brahmana. That's how Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted many people to follow the uh, worship in loving devotional service of Lord Krishna, and many became Brahmanas, and hence and who followed strictly the rules and regulations became Vaishnavas also. So higher education is not meant for everyone. Only selected individuals trained in Brahminical culture should be allowed to pursue higher education. Educational institutions should not aim to teach technology, for a technologist cannot properly be called educated. A technologist is a Sudra. Only one who studies the Vedas may properly understand the Vedas.
Hare Krishna. Satyabhama Mataji has some net issue. She
Ah,
left.
she left the group. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah,
She'll rejoin. Let's wait.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I informed her. She is just checking.
Sorry, I've been speaking. कहाँ तक सुने आप लोग? I've been continuously speaking. Hare Krishna. कब से नहीं सुन रहे अरुणा माता जी?
हाँ माता जी, now
Technologist is a Shudra.
253 Mataji, purport.
Educational institution should
Correct.
not aim to teach
करेक्ट करेक्ट.
technology.
अभी
बस
1 मिनट से नहीं सुने कि थोड़ी देर से नहीं सुने आप लोग?
माता जी वहां तक सुना है सिर्फ. Educational institute should not aim to teach technology.
Okay, okay. Oh, sorry. I've been speaking after that also. Okay. So educational institutions should not aim to teach technology, for a technologist cannot be properly called educated. A technologist is a Shudra. Only one who studies the Vedas may properly be called a learned man or Pandita. The duty of a Brahmana is to become a learned in Vedic literature and teach the Vedic knowledge to other Brahmanas. In our Krishna conscious movement, we are simply teaching our students to become fit Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. In our school at Dallas, the students are learning English and Sanskrit. Through these two languages, they are studying all our books such as Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the Nectar of Devotion. It is a mistake to educate every student as a technologist. There must be a group of students who become Brahmanas. Without Brahmanas who study the Vedic literature, human society will be entirely chaotic. So here Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that in earlier years, only the Brahmanical community, who are the caste Brahmanas, or you can say by Jati Brahmanas, they used to send their children to Gurukulas and there were no other schools. And the children of the Vaishyas would learn business. The children of Kshatriyas would go for learning the usage of weapons and all those things. And the Shudras would be in serving the other three classes. But in the modern age, everybody is going to the same school. So we have a mass production of students. So little before the current decade, we had only 2 through 3 streams. Either people take up the engineering or the medical or become just graduates or go to teaching profession. But now you have many options. But we don't know the propensity of each student. Each student, one student, although might be studying engineering, but maybe he's having interest in environment or doing agriculture, or somebody who is in who is taken up doing medical sciences or some other thing, probably might be interested in something else. That's why we have so many students who are then later on depressed after doing taking 2 graduations, etc. They say, no, I don't want to do anything else. So in this COVID period, many people who were engineers, who were doing many professional activities, came back to farming. They said, no, now we want to do hydroponics farming or something like that. So a lot of people who didn't know what their propensities, where their main key thing was, took up many other things and then later on had to stop that and come back. सुनी क्रोध कैला शाबा पादु या रागना सबे मिले करे तबे प्रभुरा निंदना. Hearing of the incidents, all students became greatly angry and joined together in criticizing the Lord. Shabadesha Brashta Kaila Ekalani Mani Brahmana Mari Te Chahe Dharma Bhaya Nahi. Nimai Pandita alone has spoiled the entire country, they accused. He wants to strike a caste Brahmana. He has no fear of religious principles. In those days also, the caste Brahmanas were very, very proud. They were not prepared to accept chastisement even from a teacher or spiritual master. पुण्य यादिया इसे करे मारी बाता हारे कौन वा मनुष्य की करी ते पारे. If he again perform such a atrocious act, certainly we shall retaliate and strike him in turn. What kind of important person is he that he can check us in this way? So now there is a conflict between the group of students and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhura Nindaya Shabara Buddhi Haila Nasha Supatita Vidyakarao Nahaya Prakasha. When all the students thus resolved criticizing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, their intelligence was spoiled. Thus, although they were learned scholars, because of this offense, the essence of knowledge was not manifested in them. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Maya apartha jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. When one becomes inimical to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Adopting an atheistic attitude, asuram bhavam, Asurik bhav. Even if one is a learned scholar, the essence of knowledge does not become manifested in him. In other words, the essence of this knowledge is stolen by the illusory energy of the Lord. In this connection, Srila Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati Thakur quotes a mantra from the Shveteshwara Upanishad. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurau tasyaite katita hai artha prakashante mahatmana. Prakashante Mahatmana. The purport of this verse is that one who is unflinchingly devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu and similarly devoted to the spiritual master with no ulterior motive becomes a master of all knowledge. In the heart of such a devotee, the real essence of the Vedic knowledge becomes manifested. This essence is nothing but surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedescha sarve ahameva vede. Only unto one who fully surrenders to the spiritual master and supreme Lord does the essence of Vedic knowledge become manifested, not to anyone else. This same principle is emphasized by Srila Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam. Iti pumsarpita Vishnu bhaktische navalakshana kriyate bhagavati adda tanmanye aditam uttamam. A person who directly applies these 9 principles of hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., the Navavida Bhakti, in the service of Lord is to be understood as a greatly learned man who has assimilated the Vedic literatures very well. For the goal of studying the Vedic literatures is to understand the Supreme Personality of Lord Sri Krishna. Sridhar Swami confirms in this commentary that first one must surrender to the spiritual master. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprakshnena seveya upadeshakrite jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. Then the process of devotional service will develop. It is not a fact that only one who diligently pursues an academic career can become a devotee. Even with no academic career, if one has the full faith in spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he develops in spiritual life and real knowledge of the Vedas. The example of, so before going to the next example, we see that all the material knowledge which we gain in when we take a birth as human, that all gets perishes along with this body. But what remains with us is our bhakti or sadhana and the scripture, the knowledge of the scriptures or the knowledge of the Vedas which we learn, and only that carries on to our next life. So wherever we do our bhakti or finish our bhakti, for example, somebody reached up to 45% of bhakti in this lifetime. So the next lifetime, he doesn't have to start from 0. He has to start from 46. So that is the credit one accumulates or a jiva accumulates by doing devotional service to Supreme Lord. And the purpose of Vedas is not to just be a smartha brahmana. The purpose of Vedas is to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example of Maharaja Khatvanga confirms this. One who surrenders is understood to have learned the subject matter of Vedas very nicely. One who adopts this Vedic process of surrender learns devotional service and is certainly successful. So all these activities we do, we has to be in a humble way, in a surrendered fashion to the Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, and only in that process we will attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it is the Guru who shows us and teaches us about Lord Krishna. One who adopts this Vedic process of surrender learns devotional service and is certainly successful. One who is very proud, however, is unable to surrender either to the spiritual master or to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he cannot understand the essence of any Vedic literature. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.11.18 says, Shabda Brahmani Nishnato na Nishnayat Pare Yadi Shramastasya Shramapalo Adhenum Iva Rakshata. If one is learned in Vedic literature, but is not a devotee of Lord Vishnu, his work is as a useless waste of labor, just like keeping of a cow that does not give milk. Anyone who does not follow the surrendering process but is simply interested in an academic career cannot make any advancement. His profit is only his labor for nothing. If one is expert in the study of Vedas but does not surrender to a spiritual master or Vishnu, all his cultivation of knowledge is but a waste of time and labor. So when we bring our we get envious of the Supreme Lord or the devotees, or we have an attitude or we have an ego, we will never ever progress. The only way to gain is by submission. It says that knowledge flows from higher to lower, similar in a deductive process. Similarly, we have seen examples that from higher frequency to lower frequency, electricity flows. Similarly, the knowledge also flows from higher to lower. So unless we are in a submission fashion, we will not gain this knowledge and we will not progress further. And the purpose of all, Vedescha sarve ahameva vedyo, Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita, is the purpose of all knowing all the Vedas is to know the Supreme Personality of Lord Shri Krishna. So the purpose is to know our eternal connection with the Lord and why we have come here and what is our constitutional position. And Lord comes here to this bhautik, to this material world to attract, does so many pastimes only to attract the fallen Jivatma and remind the Jivatma that his original relationship with the Supreme Lord and the Lord, more than us, the Lord is interested in taking us back home, back to Godhead. We may be listening to so many lectures, but we don't do the prayas from our side, we will remain where we are. And the Lord has been saying, the devotees have been saying, the Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru have been saying, but after hearing to all this, if we don't do our sadhana properly or we don't do whatever has been told, we will remain where we are. So now it is left to us what steps we take. तथापि धाम्बिका पड़ुया नाम्र नाही हया यहाँ तहाँ प्रभुरा निंदा हसी से कराया. But the proud student community did not become submissive. On the contrary, the students spoke of the incidents anywhere and everywhere in a laughing manner. They criticized the Lord. सर्वज्ञ गोसानी जानी शाबारा दुर्गति घरे वासी चिंते था साबारा अव्याहति. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is omniscient. He could understand the degradations of these students. Thus he sat at home contemplating how to rescue them. So Lord, being Mahavadanyaya, he been so merciful, who had come as a devotee to show how to take his own name. So the Lord himself was chanting and maddenly dancing to take, and he was taking whose name? He was taking his own name, Sri Krishna, Hari Hari. And he was worried that how should I rescue these students who are going on a degraded path. Yathadhyapakam aratanra shishya gana dharma karmi taponishta nindaka durjana. All the so-called professors and scientists and the students generally follow the regulative principles of religion, fruitive activities and austerities, the Lord thought. Yet at the same time, they are blasphemers and rogues. Here is a depiction of materialists who have no knowledge of devotional service. They may be very religious and may work very systematically or perform austerities and penances. But if they blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are nothing but rogues. This is confirmed in Hari Bhakti Sudodaya. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapa Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. So the people who don't have bhakti are like dead bodies. That is what it means by apranasya dehasya. Their deha is without prana. So having developing bhakti, developing our bhakti lata beach and nurturing it, that is the only way to get out of this world. So the meaning of this verse we'll see. If they are without knowledge of devotional service to the Lord, then great nationalism, fruit, political or social work, science or philosophy, or simply costly garments decorating a dead body. So all this material knowledge which we gain, we are in competition with other students and we gain. Ultimately, when the person starts aging, he realizes, oh, I spent so much time studying, I spent so much time working. But it is said that our needs are very, very simple. Ultimately, this COVID also taught us that our needs are simple. None of us need to have bought any clothes because this we didn't have to go anywhere out, and the same clothes we could use easily. Similarly, the requirements of the person was to keep the body and mind, body and soul together, and little bit of food things would have been is sufficient. But what to do? The human coming under the three material modes is getting so many multitude of desires, like the desires as the waves in the ocean. And unless we curtail these material desires, there is no hope. The only offense of the persons adhering to these principles is that they are not devotees. They are always blasphemous toward the Supreme Personality of God and His devotees. So this is also the first aparadha in our 10 Nama aparadha. So yeah, we'll take one more, this one verse and we'll stop here. Eisha mora ninda aparade haite amina lao aile bhakti na pare laite. If I do not induce them to take to devotional service because of committing the offense of blasphemy, none of these people will be able to take to it. So the Lord is now thinking, if I am not able to give them the bhakti or induce them to take the bhakti, then they will not be able to take it at all. So we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, Dandavata Pranam to all Vaishnavas. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
I have one question, Mataji.
Boliye, Mataji.
Who is Sridhar Swami, Mataji, and who is contemporary of him?
No, this Sridhar Swami is at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only. Sorry, he's at the time when Srila Prabhupada was there. So he was one of the God brothers, and his explanations and commentaries are widely used by devotees in ISKCON.
Okay, Mataji. One more question, Mataji. Who is Vishwanath Chakravarti, Mataji?
Vishwanath Chakravarti, after the Shad Goswamis left this material world, we had Baldev Vidyabhushan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who revived the literatures. They wrote commentaries, like Baldev Vidyabhushan has written the extensive commentaries of about Sri Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written commentaries and explanation of various literatures. He has written apart from that on Srimad Bhagavatam also. So they revived these literatures, and at that time the Rajasthan kings were very much in favor of these, and they were treating Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baldev Vidyabhushan as their Raja like acharyas of their time. So the kings were very favorable to them, and their scriptures, I mean, if not for them, this movement would have, like, have had a break in between. So Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baldev Vidyabhushan are very great acharyas in the parampara Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
After Narottam Das Thakur, these two devotees acharyas have come.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavata Pranam to all. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Have a all wonderful Ekadashi. Krishner Mati Rastu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandat pranam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.